All right, welcome everybody to our Signpost webinar series. Over the past few weeks, we've been gathering resources to share with you as we are all navigating the COVID-19 crisis together. This week, we've got some resources to help you as the business owner start planning for the new normal we're heading into as certain restrictions are being lifted in coming weeks. My name is Kelly. Joining me today is Chris. Want to say hey, Chris?
Hi, everyone.
All right, and always, we will be recording this webinar and sending it out via email for you to go back to if needed. If you do have any questions during the presentation, there is a chat box you can access at any time, and we'll address the questions at the end. I see some people are introducing themselves in there. It's great to see everybody. Now, with so much change in how we all have to navigate our lives and business practices due to COVID-19, it's natural for companies to get tunnel vision and focus all efforts on solving the current problems right now in front of them. Today, we believe it's crucial to begin thinking ahead, and we want to help you with that by going over some best practices. Now, when we think about best practices, we want to focus on how you can help your customers with the products or services that you provide and how you can work with them in this new environment. We suggest focusing on two main ideas. That's what you provide and what you want to build. You want to first provide your customers with help, insights, and guidance on what your business has to offer and how they can safely interact with you now and in coming weeks as things may change. We also want you to build demand for your products and services with your messaging, along with trust in your brand and you and how you're operating. At this time, it's a good idea to think about developing a strong and clear message with these ideas in mind so that your customers and prospects are confident in your strategy moving forward.
All right, now we'll jump over to some other best practices, which you might already be a bit familiar with. So now is a great time, not that there's ever a bad time, to exceed your customers' expectations. Right off the bat, I'll say that email open rates are up 5%, sometimes even more, depending on the industry and vertical. So definitely be sure to take advantage of that and get a few more opens on your communications with customers. And really invest the time to build those relationships. Those are going to be remembered long term. If you're there or supporting your community, customers are going to remember that even long after this is all over. So definitely keep an ear to the ground, listen to what they need, what you can provide to them during this time. Obviously, it might not be business as usual, but you'd be surprised in what you can learn from your customers and what you can provide during this time. And then, of course, as always, provide those quality services or products, really going the extra mile in any way you can, thinking outside the box. And of course, Signpost is cultivating feedback for you, but feel free to open up other avenues of that as well. Just show that you're listening and being there for your customers during this difficult time. And of course, follow up. Really make sure that you're taking the bit of extra time to ensure that your customers feel heard and reaching out to them, responding to their questions and other inquiries. And then, of course, just kind of building on that, really collaborating with your community. I know here in Denver, we've seen a lot of businesses supporting one another, even utilizing each other's resources or spaces in order to just be pivotal, being able to pivot and be flexible during this time. And of course, there are mutual opportunities across the board, and open lines of communications are very important when you are collaborating with other businesses or your customers, and kind of letting them know that that partnership is there, kind of showing a solidarity to your community, and even going across verticals to really shine and reach the widest audience possible with a level of empathy, of course. And then doing so is really going to organically open up new ideas or ways of thinking, other new needs to fill. Once again, just kind of seeing some businesses helping one another out. I know that we recently worked with a car wash that was having a new detailing service they were going to unveil last month, and in realizing that the launch didn't go according to plan, they actually went ahead and offered free detailing services to first responders and other people on the lines right now, and are able to get a tax write-off from such a thing. And doing so has kind of opened up some new areas of business that they weren't expecting. So really collaborating to add value to products and services services. And once again, just keeping that ear to the ground and listening for that feedback as you pivot is going to be critical for the long term as well. And then, of course, as Kelly's mentioned a couple of times, there will be a new normal for the foreseeable future. And you want to make sure that you are on the right side of that and putting your best foot forward so that way your customers know that you care about their safety and want to keep them around long term. But of course, knowing your numbers and having a budget and sticking to it is important. It's easy to kind of be reactive during this time and want to kind of go off of a plan, but sticking to that budget is going to be important, and ensuring that your expenses are productive, stretching every dollar as far as possible. Obviously, that goes without saying. And then anywhere where you do have vendor relationships or other things along those lines, don't be afraid to ask questions about cost. Even if the answer is no, maybe there's some other value somewhere that can be found. And as we mentioned several times in this presentation and other presentations, it is a collaborative effort. We are in this together, and businesses have definitely shown a willingness to be flexible and just kind of band together to rage on through. And digital tools already are extremely important. They're going to be even more important in the coming months and even years. It just makes you a more resilient company if you're able to adapt and be as digitized as possible. It'll be critical for maintaining those customer relationships and, of course, a smooth operation process, which we are going to go into in a bit more detail in a moment. But the more information and tools you can have available online, that's only going to strengthen your business and show your customers that you are able to adapt to the changing times.
All right, and as we're all thinking about what will look like as businesses to begin to open up again, the main focus that we've seen is the safety of customers and of your staff. You've probably heard the word phased reopenings a lot if you've been watching the news. You'll see that states are planning these phased reopenings in order to, one, mitigate the risk of a resurgence of illness, and number two, to protect the most vulnerable population. You want to pay very close attention to your state and county guidelines so you know exactly how you need to adjust. You'll see on this slide we have two links that will be shared with you later. We've found that are very helpful in compiling and following this information since it has been changing a lot as different plans are made and occasionally dates have been moved in the past couple weeks. Now, as you are preparing before reopening, one thing to consider is there has been a guidance on preparing workplaces written by OSHA. I'll go into that into a little more detail on my next slide, but it's a great resource to go online to take a look at to see just good resources for how to keep your workers safe as you are starting to reopen. Next, we want to be prepared to close again. This is obviously the worst case scenario, but we want to be ready for anything. So you want to make sure you have a plan in place as you're reopening that if you do have to close doors again, you can handle that. Next, we want to be prepared for customers to be possibly hesitant about actually visiting your establishment. People are likely to be nervous as businesses are opening up again, so you'll want to continue offering those products and services in the same ways that people have gotten used to in the past few weeks. People have pivoted to contactless pickup and delivery options, as well as purely online offerings. It will be important to keep those in place and at least readily at hand, just in case things do change. And then lastly, we want to make sure that you are updating your Google My Business page. Google has made it even easier to share updates very specific to a lot of changes that have been happening because of COVID. And we want to make sure that you are taking advantage of that. If you are unsure how to update that, give us a call or log in and actually chat us is probably the easiest way. And we'll see what we can do to help you make those changes if you have any questions. Now, I spoke before about the OSHA guidelines that they put out. I wanted to go into more detail here. Their recommendations here are 4 key steps that employers can take to reduce the workers' risk of exposure. Number 1, develop an infectious disease preparedness and response plan that can help guide protective actions against COVID-19. You want to stay on top of guidance from federal, state, or any other territorial health agencies and consider how to incorporate these recommendations and resources into workplace-specific plans. You'll also want to prepare and implement basic infection prevention measures to protect your employees. All employers should be implementing good hygiene and infection control practices as you're reopening. You'll also want to develop, implement, and communicate about workplace flexibilities and protections. This means actively encouraging sick employees to stay home and ensuring that sick leave policies are flexible and consistent with public health guidance, and that employees are actually aware of these policies. Last, we want to implement workplace controls. The best way to control a hazard is to remove it from the workplace rather than relying on your workers to reduce their exposure. But with this outbreak, it's not possible to just eliminate the hazard. So we need to implement safe work practices, flexible policies, and even provide personal protective equipment. These are going to be key things in hazard control for you and your business.
Hello, sorry about that. So we will be diving in a bit deeper into the preparation for the new order of operations. So basically requiring reservations or appointments only when possible, depending on the industry. That'll be something that just gives a bit more peace of mind to your customers and kind of eases the concerns that we mentioned earlier in the presentation of people being hesitant to kind of resume life as normal. And where possible, only allowing a certain number of customers at a time per square footage, and this will vary by state. So definitely take it upon yourself to familiarize with the regulations that are being put forward in your jurisdiction, and limiting customer capacity even down to 25% if possible, and perhaps mitigating that by having that appointment or reservation system in place could be critical to ensuring that you don't see such a dramatic drop off in traffic, and maybe even filling in some of those typically slower hours during the day for you where that applies. And then of course redesigning layouts to maintain 6 feet of distance between customers. There are some additional great resources out there that talk about doing this, and it can even be a benefit for your business. So kind of taking this bit of extra time to think about your store's layout where applicable, and redesigning it so not only is it safer for your customers and within these new guidelines, but maybe even more intuitive from a marketing perspective, where someone's navigating the store and there's kind of like a life cycle in mind for what products can be placed throughout the location. So, and of course, this goes back to what we talked about earlier, getting that feedback from customers on the new layout. You'd be surprised, how much useful information can come from that source as well. And also some additional things here, eliminating shared equipment, which is definitely going to be an adjustment for everyone. Pens for signing receipts being among them. I've definitely seen some stores that kind of have a clean and dirty container for that. Maybe that's not the best solution, but kind of thinking ahead, and who knows, maybe another new part of the new normal, people will be carrying their own pens again. Eliminating personal contact during check-in, check-out, and paying is also critical, and just having those sanitization supplies on hand will definitely, once again, give that peace of mind to your customers. Adjusting hours and shift details to minimize employees is another thing you can do to just mitigate things before they become an issue. And then, of course, screening employees for temperature and other COVID-19 symptoms. I know for a lot of people, this kind of flies in the face of that hard work ethic, but you do have to encourage your employees to stay home if they are feeling any symptoms, as that can definitely come back to bite you later on. And then, of course, things we should have been doing all along, and a lot of us have been, is just wearing masks and gloves, but also washing hands frequently, and just doing everything we possibly can to prevent any spread, and ensuring that during this adjusted interaction with your business, your customers feel safe and secure. And then lastly, over communicate these plans to customers. Definitely want to have signs up in the store if you have a storefront, and announcements that go off every few minutes as well. Just getting ahead of that, and preparing your customers to adjust to the new normal. And over time, these things will become more secondhand to people. once they're going to other businesses where this is typical, it'll seem a bit less odd, and then things will just kind of develop accordingly. But just being one of those businesses, the front line of this is going to be a good image for your business. And then showing empathy first and foremost. Obviously, everyone is kind of adjusting and having some form of their life drastically impacted by this. So just remembering that, and whether there are different scales or not, is kind of irrelevant when it comes to communicating with your customers. Just showing that you care and that you understand that they're going through something as well is going to be critical. And they will expect a very high standard of adherence. And there will be times where mistakes are made and you'll fall short, but kind of showing grace and understanding in that, and maybe having some value in your back pocket for the more vocal customers that have these concerns is never a bad idea. So definitely having some patience and empathy are the name of the game, and just kind of being patient as things continue to change will also be critical as well.
All right, well, if you have been joining our webinar for the past couple of weeks, this should look pretty familiar to you. We wanted to do a quick recap of ways to communicate through campaigns. These are the main types of campaigns that we've outlined to best communicate with your customers during this time. There are a lot of examples that we've given in the past webinars, so I definitely encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, search for Signpost, and you'll see that you'll have all the webinars at your fingertips, where you can look through these different types of categories of campaigns and look for ideas and maybe some inspiration of what you would like to be sending out. Now, we've talked about this for this whole webinar. Communication is key. We want to continue communicating, especially as we are working on the reopening. We want to keep in mind a couple things here that are listed. So we want to be prepared for customers to either agree or disagree with your decision to reopen or not reopen. No matter what you decide, there will always be someone with a comment about it. So we want to be ready for anything. Think about how you'll want to handle any negative or even positive commentary. We want to be able to address concerns of those with negative reactions and communicate messages of thanks or appreciation for those who have positive reactions. We want to focus on the negative, but we always forget to focus on the positive that is out there too. So definitely acknowledge those customers that are giving you that positive reaction and helping to get things back to this operating state. Next, we want to reevaluate how your business is doing weekly. Conditions are changing rapidly, so we want to keep a pulse on the business in the short term. It's going to be very important. The ability to change and adapt quickly is going to be very critical at this time. And last, we want to redirect customers to read best practices from reputable resources like the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control Prevention. We want to help educate your customers on how to be safe and explain why you are taking on new preventative measures that can help them build trust in you and your brand.
All right, folks, and this will be a mouthful here, but definitely don't feel the need to get out your pen and paper. You will be able to find these resources on the SBA website, but just a quick rundown of it. So the Paycheck Protection Program provides loan forgiveness for retaining employees by temporarily expanding the traditional SBA 7A loan programs. And it did resume April 27th of 2020. And then there is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Emergency Advance. The SBA is unable to accept new applications at this time for that program. However, and that's based on available appropriations funding. Applicants who have already submitted their applications will continue to be processed on a first come, first served basis. Definitely a good idea to keep an eye on that. As we've mentioned throughout the presentation, things are constantly changing, and our nation's capital is constantly in talks for new things to do to help our small businesses. The Express Bridge Loan Pilot Program allows small businesses who currently have a business relationship with an SBA Express lender to access up to $25,000 quickly. And of course, there's more information on that as well. And as part of our coronavirus debt relief efforts, the SBA will pay 6 months of principal, interest, and any associated fees that borrowers owe for all current 7A, 504, and microloans in regular servicing status, as well as new 7A, 504, and microloans dispersed prior to September 27th of this year. This relief is not available for Paycheck Protection Program loans or economic injury disaster loans. Borrowers do not need to apply for this assistance as it will be automatically provided with certain requirements. Definitely contact your lender there, and there will be quite a lot of information if you click on those links as well. So we're just kind of making this information available. Obviously, the best way to navigate any questions you have there would be to contact the SBA directly. Next, there are additional resources provided by Facebook. They're actually offering $100 million to up to 30,000 eligible businesses across 30 countries where they operate. So you need to have between 2 and 50 employees, have been in business for over a year, and of course experience challenges from COVID-19, and then also be in or near a location where Facebook operates. So you can click that link there to go ahead and find out more information and get your application started for yet another potential resource.
All right, well, that comes to the end of our presentation. So we do want to open up the chat for any questions that you may have. So go ahead, pop in there if you have anything you'd like us to try to address right now. You can always log into your account and submit a support request if you have any individualized questions. While you might be in there typing, we did have one question I wanted to bring up that we've heard a lot this week. Very commonly, people are asking, as we're thinking about reopening, how many emails should I be sending out? Remember, we've talked about this in past weeks. We don't want to send things just for the sake of sending, but we do have a lot of very relevant and timely messages that are, needing to go out to let people know how we're operating and how things are changing. As you're preparing to reopen, I definitely encourage you to revisit those on our YouTube channel and take a look at how you can clearly communicate the most important information and what's going to be most relevant as you are figuring out your reopening plan. I actually received an email from a boutique that I go to, and they told me their plan of when they want to open, what their top offerings will be, and how they're implementing new safety measures of by appointment only. They're actually making it pretty easy to go ahead and make appointments. It really gave me all the information that I need so I can see how I can interact with them in a really safe way. There's another 2 weeks before they're actually opening, so I anticipate they're going to be sending reminders about the date and how to reserve appointments. So, that could be a few emails in the next 2 weeks, but as long as you are sending relevant, timely information, that's definitely something to keep in mind as you're deciding how many messages in a shorter period of time that you want to send. I don't see any questions popping into the chat. That's no problem. I'm going to pull up one more screen here. This is how you can get in touch with us. The best way right now to get in touch with us is via chat. You'll log into your Signpost account, and on the bottom right-hand corner, there's a support bubble. Go ahead and click on that, and that is the quickest, easiest way to get in touch with us. You'll get instant access to a support rep, and you'll already be logged into your account, so you can access the different tabs that you might want to navigate with all your questions. If you do want to send us an email or give us a call, we have that information here at the bottom. I just say that chat is going to be the fastest and easiest. With COVID, we have had a very large influx of calls, so we can't always answer the calls on the first try. We might have to give you a call back or get a voicemail from you. So definitely try that chat button. All right, well, I'm going to leave the meeting on for another minute or so in case you do have any questions, but thanks for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again.